So yesterday we went around the Sydney Harbor area, so the Opera House, the Botanical Garden, stuff like that. And today we are going to go back down to that area, but we're going to take the ferry to Manly and just see what that area is like. So yeah, we don't have really anything else planned besides that, but yeah, we're going to go check it out.
We took the train to Circular Quay so we could board the ferry to Manly. The views from the ferry are incredible, including the perfect view of the Opera House from the ocean. We arrived at Manly Wharf where the scenery was already stunning. Wow, it's so pretty. We walked down the main street past all the shops, which also had a little market just before you get to the beach. The day that we visited, Manly Beach was fairly busy and it was also windy outside, so we decided to stop for lunch instead of going for a swim. Are you okay? I ordered fish and chips, which is definitely not unique to Manly, but I love it, so I'll use any excuse to order it. Our next adventure was to find the Manly Wormhole, which is a man-made pathway that's carved through the sandstone that surrounds the beach. To get there, head towards this ocean pool, then keep walking towards the sea. You do have to climb over some rocks to reach the entrance, but it's not a difficult climb. There aren't any signs directing you to the wormhole, except for this one above the entrance. We sat here for a little while enjoying the views. We took one last detour on the Fairlight Walk, so we could take full advantage of the nice weather. This coastal walk was the last thing we did before taking the ferry back to Sydney. Today is day 4 being in Australia. Today we're going to go into the city to go to Commonwealth Bank so we can open up our new account. This is one of the last few things admin-wise that we have to do in order to really get our work holiday visa experience started. With that, I think I'll go over just the documents that you kind of need to do this type of visa. So the first one is obviously the visa itself. There's no set time as to how long it will take. So for me, it took a couple of minutes, but for Guy, it took a month. And our visas ended up getting approved on the same day. He had to do a medical exam and retake his English test as well, but I obviously didn't have to do that. Then there are a couple other things you can do before you get here. We actually set up our bank account, which you can do with some banks like Commonwealth up to 2 weeks before you leave. So we set it up last week, and we just have to go into the bank to finalize that. We also got travel insurance, which is not necessarily required, but probably a good idea, especially if you're going to be traveling long term, just in case something comes up. Another thing that we started before we got here is our RSA, which if you have lived or worked in the United States, it's very similar to ServSafe. We're going to be doing jobs in hospitality, so we need it. If you're not planning on doing that, you actually don't have to. And we did pretty much the entire course before getting here. We weren't able to actually take the final exam until we were already here because we needed an identification number, which we could only get after landing in Australia. So yesterday, actually more like last night, we finished up the final exam and we're just waiting on the results today, but that should be fine. The things that we actually have to do now that we're in Australia are get our tax file number, which is also called the TFN, and we applied for that the second day that we were here. You can only do that once you're already in Australia, so we had to wait and we applied for it. It says it takes a couple of weeks for it to come in, but you can call and ask for it after a couple of days, so we're probably going to call tomorrow. Especially if you have a job already lined up, you can call and just tell them that you need it sooner, so that way you can start working. The last thing that we haven't done is choose a superannuation account, which is like retirement. We still have to choose one, even though we're not going to be here when we're like in our 60s to cash it out. Your employer is like required to put money towards your super, so we have to choose that once we start working, so we'll probably choose that once we go to Port Lincoln. Another thing that you want to do is book accommodation for a couple weeks once you get here. We chose to do 10 days in Sydney. Wherever you choose to go, you'll want to book a couple of weeks accommodation. Some jobs will provide it or provide it at a reduced rate. Some won't, but you're gonna have to live somewhere and there's no telling if it'll take you a couple days or a couple weeks to get a job. So I would say booking accommodation before you get here, at least for a couple weeks, is definitely recommended. Speaking of jobs, by some stroke of luck, we have already found a job. Based on all the research that I did, either on TikTok and YouTube, it seems like it's not very common that you find a job before you actually get to Australia, but we did. We kind of figured we don't really have anything to lose by applying, and we'd rather try, and we just didn't have any expectations that we would actually find a job. But it turns out we had 2 job offers. One we liked more than the other, and so we did a Zoom interview literally on a Sunday night. For me, it was 11, and for Guy, it was midnight. And yeah, we did our Zoom interview, and we ended up getting it, which was genuinely surprising, and I would recommend that just in case on the off chance that you do find one. That's one less thing that you have to worry about when you get here. Now we have a place that we're going and we already have a job, and we were able to do most of our paperwork at home. The last of it requires this tax file number, so once we get that, we're going to finish it up, and that will be probably the last thing that we actually have to do. So that's very exciting. Everything's coming together, and yeah, that's what we're gonna do today, is go into town to get our bank account set up and probably just walk around, get lunch. We don't really have much of a plan.
Alright, bank stuff is done, so that's all set, and we just need to get our tax file number and choose our super, and pretty much all our paperwork is done. So we decided to get Brazilian food. How is it from a certified Brazilian? For the rest of the day, we walked around Darling Harbour and the surrounding area. Although not as iconic as Sydney Harbour, we had fun exploring this side of the city and enjoyed some nice views of the skyline. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.